Okay, good morning, everybody. Sorry we're starting so late. Today is March 8th. You are at the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. We will start off this morning with our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will have our invocation by Steve Morrow this morning. Our pastor didn't show up, so Steve is our stand-in, and I appreciate him doing that. So everybody please stand up for the pledge.
4 stars.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together for the matters that we need to discuss. So let us remember as we discuss these things, let us remember to respect each other, for we have very varied opinions, and we get a lot more done by respecting and working with each other than yelling and screaming at each other. So just bless us, bless these deliberations, and watch all of us carefully. And also let us ask, even though we're getting late in the rainy season, maybe provide us with just a little bit more rain before the rainy season comes to an end. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Good job. What do submariners say?
That was great, Steve. Good job. There's a calling for you there. Okay, on short notice. Thank you very much for doing that. All right, we were going to move on to our presentations. We're going to start off with an Employee Service Award for 30 years. And I think Delilah is ready to go. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good morning, Chairman Withrow, members of the board, CEO of Mason County Council Boards, Delilah Vasquez, Assistant Director, Stanworks Division with the Community Services Agency. It is my pleasure to recognize Catherine Bender for over 30 years of county service and congratulate her on her upcoming retirement. She officially retires on March 26, 2022. Catherine began her career on November 11, 1991 with Stanislaus County at the Community Services Agency as an Eligibility Worker 1 and ultimately spending her entire 30-plus year career at CSA. We appreciate your dedication and your commitment to serving the community of Stanislaus County. Eligibility workers, now known as Family Services Specialists, meet with customers applying for public assistance programs and determining who does and who does not qualify for benefits. It's a fast-paced, highly regulated, but very rewarding work. Thank you for assisting residents of Stanislaus County in their time of need to access nutritional food, cash assistance, health care, and other safety net programs. Catherine continued to excel in her various assignments and promote within the department and became a Family Services Supervisor in 2006. Catherine has worked in a variety of units within the agency, including Medi-Cal Coordinator, CalPres Tech Team Chair, and Supervisor in Intake, continuing our Regional Call Center, and Senior and Persons with Disabilities and Medi-Cal Long-Term Care for the elderly and disabled. She is currently a supervisor in the training unit and provides supervision and support to approximately 28 new trainees, trainers, and curriculum writers. She is well aware of the complexities of the program we administer and the frequent changing regulations, and often tells new hires who are struggling to understand and retain the information that if you can find just one individual in this department that knows everything about every program, I'll give you my next paycheck. She is committed to sharing her knowledge and expertise and cares deeply about helping our new hires excel in their new roles. In addition, Catherine was instrumental in assisting with the implementation of C4, developing training materials for CalWorks, and a quarterly reporting process. The state recognized the exceptional materials created by Catherine and provided to the other counties to replicate. She has a soft heart with a solid exterior, as demonstrated by her work at the Children Crisis Center over the last 3.5 years and volunteers at her church, Big Valley Grace. She is a grandmother of 3, enjoys painting and camping in her RV fifth wheel with her husband. Catherine, please accept my heartfelt gratitude for your 30 years of dedicated county service.
Okay, Catherine, there's more. Sorry, it's not over. So first, this is on behalf of the Board of Supervisors in recognition of the 30 years. So 30 years probably went by like a blink of an eye for you, I'm sure. And working in CSA, you're kind of doing the Lord's work there, we know. You're a servant leader there. You're doing, things that so many people need and so many people depend on you. And it's got to be fulfilling for you, I would think. I would hope, after 30 years of doing this, that you'd feel like there was a purpose in your life and you've accomplished a lot and you've made such a big difference in so many other people's life. And, we talk all the time, Vito talks about it all the time, how, this organization is made up of people like you that make this a better community. So we couldn't do it without you. And retirement, when's the retirement coming? It's
The end of the month.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So hopefully you have big plans here, but I know that we will miss you. I know that the community will miss you, and just know in your heart that you really made a difference in this community. So here, Catherine, I'm going to let you speak now.
I thank you. Thank you for this award, and thank you for recognizing the hard work that everyone in my department does. Let me get emotional. I have this whole thing that I was going to read, and I don't think I can do it because I just don't want to take up too much time, and I'll probably end up crying. But I do want to thank Stanislaus County for the last 30 years and 5 months because it's been great, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to get a picture.
Hey, Catherine, before you leave, the one question is, did you ever have to give up a paycheck?
No, I did not. I had forgotten I said that. But it's nice that somebody remembered.
Yeah.
Because it is definitely a hard job, and I made it 30 years. Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement.
Okay, those are the best parts of our meetings, I think, when we do that. Okay, we're going to move on now to recognition of Stanislaus County Medical Reserve Corps. And Lori Williams, Lori, and Mary Ann. Good morning, Lori, how are you?
Good morning, Chairman Withrow and members of the board, and good morning, Jody Hayes. So this is the best part of the meeting, when we get a chance to really recognize and acknowledge people who help us and who really step up and make sure that our community is safe and healthy. So today I'm here to really acknowledge our Medical Reserve Corps folks who helped us during this pandemic. I'll be brief, but just want to kind of share with you a little bit about what the Medical Reserve Corps is, some of the things that they did, and how they helped us. And then to end by acknowledging any that are in the room and wherever they may be, just acknowledging, recognizing them, and thanking them sincerely for their help. So, real briefly, the Medical Reserve Corps is a national network of volunteers, so it's all across the nation. And it's made up of health professionals who would like to volunteer to help with the effectiveness of an emergency event. In this particular instance, they helped us with COVID. Let's see. During this time, we had 47 volunteers, and they came from San Joaquin, mostly from Stanislaus County, and we had a few from Merced County. The professionals and the license that they held were some were doctors, some were nurses, some were pharmacists. We had health educators, and we even had family and marriage therapists. Okay, let's see. In terms of kind of when they started to help us, they started as early as July 2020, and they helped us in our shelter with some of the screening. They helped with COVID testing, and they began to help us with some of the vaccinations. And then in January 2021 through December they continue to help us with vaccinations, and that was kind of the peak period of time when we were doing our mobile clinics. So they were up front and center helping us with that. And they also showed up and helped in many other locations, such as in our senior centers, the high schools, the library, and faith-based organizations where we did some of the mobile clinics. Some of the positions that they held when they helped us, was as medical screeners, vaccinators, translators, health educators, dispensing of the vaccines, some clerical and administrative work, and we wanted to emphasize that they worked very, very long hours to help us with these activities. So by the numbers, we had close to 3,000 volunteer hours in the vaccine clinics. There was close to a little over 200 volunteer hours for drive-through testing sites, 99 hours in the shelter screening, a little over 3,000 hours were worked in total. And let's see, and then the vaccinators worked over almost 2,000 hours as well. Some of the key achievements, we had a little over 150,000 COVID doses administered. We were able to screen a good number of people who were experiencing homelessness. We were very proud to be able to reach some of the underserved and vulnerable communities. And we were just delighted that together with our team and working with our volunteers, we were able to effectively and efficiently really work to deal with this health crisis. So one of our volunteers, in terms of their sharing of their experience, indicated that they found this is a quote from Antonia Jardine, who has volunteered with us since 2020. Her quote is, I have found everyone I work with to be dedicated to the mission of supporting our county in the pandemic response. I look forward to future opportunities to be of service as a volunteer. Okay, and so now what I'd like to do is just to check, we did send out invites to all of our volunteers, and I wanted to check in the audience to see if anyone is actually here with us. And if you are, please stand. Okay? Okay, all right. So thank you so much. And so we know many of them indicated that they would be watching virtually as well. So wherever you are, we would like to once again extend our tremendous thank you for dedicating your time and for taking the risk to help us. We'd like to acknowledge your compassion and willingness to care for others and your continued efforts and commitments to our community. So in closing, we are very, very grateful. We're very deeply honored that you chose us to work with, and we know without a doubt we could not have done it without you. So thank you to all of our volunteers, and I'll ask the one volunteer if you'd like.
There's actually two, or I think we have one
I'm
more.
sorry,
I'm going to come down there and we'll.
Okay, come on. So the two, if you would come up, and we'll get a little picture, and I'll give you your certificates later. Okay. All right. So Terry will be joining us. All right.
Okay, we're on here. Before picture real quick, I want each of you guys to, introduce yourselves. If you could just introduce yourself.
I'm James Costello. I'm a physician's assistant, and I gave shots mostly at the Center Plaza.
Good.
The oldest person I gave a vaccination to was 101.
That's great. Thanks, James. And
Hello, my name is Margarita Perez, and I was the mobile clinic coordinator, and I was also had the honor to meet a lot of our nurses that help vaccinate at our mobile sites.
well, thank you guys both very much for being here today and for all you did during the. Okay, picture time. Sorry.
Now picture, sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lori and Mary Ann. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our public comment period. This is the time of the meeting for people to speak about anything that is not on the agenda, and we limit that to 5 minutes, but anything that is not on the agenda. I've got a lot of speaker cards for specific items, but I do have some that are for just the general comment period. So I'm going to start off with the cards, and then if anybody still would like to speak after that, we will do that. Okay, first one I have is Debbie Martinez. Debbie, good morning. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. I have to leave at 10:30 because I have a district meeting in Empire.
Okay.
Anyhow, let me introduce myself. My name is Debbie Martinez, and I represent community under the umbrella of We Are La Raza Parents Union. What we do there is we speak for the disadvantaged population of children. Sadly, I had to go outside the four walls and bring Calvary from San Francisco and Oakland to expose the school-to-prison pipeline that was being conducted here in this county. We proved in the Modesto City School District that the educators, not the children, not the parents, not even the environment that they come from, it was educators that lacked empathy, compassion, they're biased, and racist. I've been serving my community with no pay. I do not have a 501c, nor do I receive a grant. What I do, I have been doing for 40 years. I am the third generation to serve my community. I'm not seeking any employment nor monetary. I voice for the voiceless, the disadvantaged population. When you have Stanislaus County Office of Education superintendent that makes 6 figures, over $368,000, to produce children, especially the disadvantaged population, where they, under the LCAP, get buckets of millions of dollars, and yet when they exit high school, they exit with 8th grade education. I was part of the Comeback Kid, not the Comeback Kid, I want to close that one. I was part of the Reopen California for Our Children. I sit as Stanislaus chairperson for California School Choice. I crippled the system here under the disciplining of our children, SB 419. I've sat in this chamber countless hours asking to revise the borders for that our population can run for offices under the umbrella of Modesto City Schools. I have worked countless hours trying to close gaps for our children. I thank Mr. Terry Woodrow for listening. I thank Manny when he was at the city. Now he's here with the county. I thank Buck Condit and Chance Condit. Vito, I tried to get to you 10 years ago to expose that bogus military school. They now have a $5 million deficit. I know where that money is. I know where those agendas were not shown, the minutes were not given. It's a mess, and our children are suffering. It's sad that I have to go outside the four walls to seek Calvary for our disadvantaged population here in Stanislaus County. I'm even wanting to run for the governing board over in Turlock just to help clean their sites up. But what I'm asking today is I'm asking for Calvary to come and help me under the umbrella of We're La Raza Parents Union. Our children, when they go back to school, portal to portal. Educators are mandated. They're mandated to report when something happens to our children when they go onto the school sites. What happens when our children come home victimized mentally and physically? We have no voice out there. PD Modesto, along with sheriffs, say, we're not going to take a report. Go back to the school sites where those parents know no rights. They have no voice other than me trying to get in and navigate to try to unpack, to repack the constitutions that you all upheld when you took your office of oath. Our children stand under the constitutions of safe, secure, and peaceful when they enter into a public setting. That's not happening. Our children come home victimized. Our children end up in the emergency room. Nobody is speaking for them. I don't feel that I need to go back to Oakland and San Francisco, when you guys, all of you guys, sit in office, the people, we the people are standing. I may stand as one, but I represent many. I'm in 20 school districts. I'm even in 3 counties. I go as far as Stockton. My cutoff is Cesar Chavez High School. I do a lot of work. I'm only asking that you guys help me. I need support. I need help. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Jorge Martinez. Is it George Martinez or Jorge Martinez?
Whatever's easier.
Okay,
Can I take this off?
you sure can. Good morning, how are you?
I am well, and I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity. This is actually my second time coming up here. The last time that I came up here was when Wood Colony was kind of going through their struggle, which I know they probably still are, but I kind of got behind them because I felt that their cause, the Wood Colony cause, the taking their expanding, growing. But anyway, I'm here today. I didn't really have time to really put this together so I could really make my point across. But my name is George Martinez, and I wrote some words down. Hopefully I can get through it in 5 minutes. It says, I would like to thank the Board of Supervisors for your time and opportunity to speak about what I would like to see change for the good in what I call the neglected neighborhoods, South Modesto, West Side, and Airport District, and many more areas. My name is George Martinez, and I've lived in the Ceres Modesto area for over 50 years. And I've seen Modesto grow from 69,000, I still remember that sign, to over 200,000. A graduate of Modesto High School in 1982 and retired Gallo employee of over 38 years. I've seen Modesto and Ceres grow by leaps and bounds, and it has flourished in all directions for the good. But unfortunately, all these years later, there has been very little or few improvements to the poor and neglected neighborhoods. My wife thinks I'm crazy because I retired last year in May, and now I'm getting back on the bandwagon. So I saw a need for school bus drivers, a big need throughout the country. And now I'm a school bus driver. And as a school bus driver, I'm everywhere, in Modesto, everywhere. And to my, as I'm driving around in these neighborhoods, South Modesto, the Airport District, and the West Side has grown very little. I know in the past, many of my gente, my race, have come up here sometimes belligerent, angry, frustrated, because of the slow action to action. But I'm not coming here with that approach. I'm also a pastor. I'm also a grandfather, a father. I'm also a person that when there's a need, I will speak. The Bible says, be as crafty as a snake, but gentle as a dove. But I wonder, how in the world do you get things done that way? So I have to be tactful. I have to get the point across. Like Debbie was saying, a voice for the voiceless. When I stood here for Wood Colony, amazing people, great people, from a rich background. And I see Modesto growing in leaps and bounds, and you want to expand that way. I have a lot more here. I'm speaking from my heart now. How can we grow? How can we move forward when so many neighborhoods are neglected? I ask you, it just takes simple common sense. It doesn't take a PhD to say, would I want my kids, my grandkids, walking on dirt roads, trying to get across the street, no sidewalks, no sewer, I shouldn't say no sewer, no amenities like so many other areas of Modesto have? Ask yourself, do you? But what I'm mainly here for is that I believe that Modesto can do a lot better. Like I said, I've grown up in this area for a long, long time. And when the NAACP many years ago said, you know what, we need to honor the great, and I admire the man, Martin Luther King, that we need something in honor of him here in Modesto, sure enough, Martin Luther King Boulevard came through. But now I am asking for the neglect that you have given Modesto. For so many years, I am asking for Crow's Landing to be renamed after Cesar Chavez. Why? Because he was a man of peace like Martin Luther King. He was a man that spoke for the voiceless. But I believe that would be the olive branch to extend out to the community and say, you know what, I think it's time that we recognize, the people. And not just my people, but everyone that lives in these areas. It's time for a change, and it's time that we move forward, but we also need to bring these neighborhoods with everyone else. How can we expand forward while we're leaving everyone from neighborhoods to schools, everything behind? So please, take it to heart. I mean, this may not be the last time you see me, but I will come gracefully and peacefully, seek and change. The windmills of change have come. They have arrived. So what will you do? Can you do it on your own, or do we have to fight and struggle for the improvements? So thank you very much.
Jorge, thank you very much, and I think your timing is perfect. We actually are starting now. We actually have some money, and we have started that process, so we welcome you to come back, and as we follow and go through this process. It's not just Modesto, it's throughout the county. We have these pockets, and we are, as Debbie said, the cavalry is coming here, but we've got a long ways to go, and we need a lot more money, but we've got a starting point anyway, so we're getting there, so thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm sorry, just 1 minute.
Sure.
I know I didn't bring a solution, but I do recall many years ago in the break room at Gallo, we had newspapers back then. The newspaper reported that the problem is the county board of supervisors and the city council members cannot agree. There's a struggle there. So I'm asking the board here to get together with the Modesto city council members and hammer this out. It can be done. And also the community coming together and calling the state legislators together. It can be done. So please, let's move to action. Let's unite together and put our differences aside and say, you know what, we can do this for everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Jorge. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to Alicia Escamilla. Alicia, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
I want to thank you for hearing me again. I'm talking about the infrastructure in the Park Lawn Southside Modesto. We have raised signatures, and we have Chance Condon have a meeting with us on the 10th. But the people have a lot of questions. They have a lot of questions that I am not informed enough to answer. So I'm looking for a venue in which we can have like a meeting, and I would like Mr. Chance Condon to attend, and also all of you to attend, and try to answer the questions that these people have regarding the infrastructure out in the Park Lawn Avenue, Park Lawn area. Thank you. So I'll keep you informed as far as the dates, and hopefully you'll be able to go to the meetings.
Very good.
Sorry. I look forward to meeting with you guys on the 10th.
Yes.
It's going to be great. And then when we do our road show, I am going to be selecting the Park Lawn community as one of the sites for
great.
me and my colleagues to come attend. So we will be
Okay,
out
great.
there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Chance. Okay. We're good. Next one up, we have Joni Creep. Joni? Joni, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Goodness, I'm always so amazed by our community. I'm just so proud to be a Stanislaus resident. Proud of everyone that has spoken up to this point, and I am here to talk about our kids, like always. So, a few months back, I asked you guys to do your due diligence when it came to Senator Pan and what was coming for our children. I don't know if you guys remember that. You probably don't. That's okay. I do. I know you guys are very busy men, so I'm going to help you with that due diligence right now. So this is some of the text of Senate Bill 871. This bill would remove the above described exception relating to hepatitis B. The bill would additionally prohibit the governing authority of a school or other institution from unconditionally admitting any person as a pupil of any public or private elementary or secondary school, child care center, day nursery, nursery school, family daycare home, or development center, unless prior to their admission to that institution, they have been fully immunized against COVID-19. To the extent that the bill would create new duties for school districts, the bill would impose a state-mandated local program. For purposes of the additional immunizations deemed appropriate by the department, and that would be mandated before a pupil's first admission to the institution, existing law requires that exemptions be allowed for both medical reasons and personal beliefs. This bill would repeal that provision, thereby removing the personal belief exemption from any additional immunization requirements deemed appropriate by the department. I don't expect you guys to have time to look up the details of every bill that I mention. And gosh darn it, why do I get emotional?
It's okay, take your time.
Yeah, it's our kids. It's our kids. I have family that has left this state. I have friends that have left this state. And I'm proud to be a Stanislaus resident. I look at you guys, I listen to our community members, and this is home. Stanislaus County is special. I totally lost my train of thought. Okay. I'll just share this with you guys. I pray for you guys, for your wisdom as you lead our community and the decisions that you make as our local leadership. Because the policies that you guys enact affect us, affect our children, influence our school districts. Thank you. Proverbs 13:10. Pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. I pray for your wisdom. And I know that you're not in the Senate. I know you're not Assemblyman. I know you're not in the Capitol, and you can't vote on this bill for me. But I'm asking you to use your position. Thanks.
Jenny, thank you very much. You'll make us all cry up here. Okay, thank you. And that bill is concerning, and there was, I appreciate you coming here and making people aware of it. I think there's a provision in there actually that talks about not only the current vaccine, but any future vaccines coming, that they would not have to go back through another, that they would just be included in whatever other vaccine shows up. So anyway, I appreciate it, and everybody needs to look into this and come to their own conclusions, and if they're concerned, consult their elected officials in the Capitol. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Jim Bishop. Jim, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Thank you, Terry. The only thing I want to bring to your attention today is...
Grab that mic closer to you, sorry.
What I want to bring to your attention today was a couple of incidents that happened in our neighborhood on the west side this past weekend. For almost 2 hours, the sheriff's helicopter circled our neighborhood. And then we had the usual. Then Monday, the sheriff's plane flew for 3 hours over our neighborhood. This is something I think the sheriff should reevaluate because it's very disturbing to the neighborhood, especially on a weekend when people should be enjoying themselves. Basically, I see this as intimidation against the civilian population. These are military tactics. This shouldn't be happening. And I'm not sure what the purpose of the continued flights are, but as I've expressed before, I'm concerned about the amount of leaded fuel burned in those planes, because the dust from the lead settles down on our neighborhoods, and it affects the mental abilities of our children. And we know from the past that tetraethyl lead added into fuel caused a violent crime wave in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. So I'm asking that they reduce the flights, and for the sake of serenity in the neighborhood, that they not use the helicopter that much. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for coming down. Okay, that was the last card that I have. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on any item that's not on the agenda? Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Samuel Bosshart. So I just wanted to speak briefly and, ask, I'm not sure if you guys are the right board or not, but the START buses, Stanislaus County Regional Transit Authority, which that might be the right one. So they have masks required on the buses, and for people who have difficulty wearing a mask, that kind of makes it less, it makes it where, how should I say it? If I hesitate to try to ride the bus, and I've flown on an airplane. It's extremely hard to breathe with one on, and I'd have to keep cheating and all that. And so it's something that has stopped me from riding the bus. Now I'm blessed to have a car, and so I don't have to do it. But every once in a while I have wanted to and not. So I'm just wondering if there's any sort of exit strategy for when our masks no longer going to be required on buses. And it occurred to me to ask about this because somebody else I had heard complaining about this, just yesterday. So I'm not alone in that. So anyway, thanks.
Thanks, Samuel. Yeah, and I don't know on the buses if it's still, transit is still a state.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, just 1 second, Steve.
No, I'm sorry, I can't speak to exactly which regulation is requiring that. I have noticed that, or at least this morning I can't. I can certainly follow up. But I have noticed that as all of these mask guidelines have changed, both at the federal and state level, that pretty consistently they continue to be required in the transportation sector. But we'll follow up and we'll find out exactly where that's at and whether there are any specified end dates to the regulations that they're currently operating under. Thank you.
Okay, Samuel, we'll figure that out. Steve, if you want to come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I can shed a little bit more light on what's going on. It's the Federal Department of Transportation that's issuing those requirements for wearing masks on all public transportation. The last that I heard is that the current requirement is scheduled to expire on March 18th, but I have not heard anything on whether or not that is going to be extended or terminated at that point. But I think the place to be checking would be the Federal Department of Transportation, because I agree with that gentleman. I hate wearing this thing too, but that's the regulation, so I have to do it. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, And thanks, Samuel. Okay, any other public comment before we move on here? I do have a couple emails that we've received that'll be of record here for the public comment that came in, but we don't read these here. Okay, very good. We're going to move on now to our consent calendar, and we have a couple items to pull. Items B1 and, 5B1 and 5B4 are the two that we're going to pull. Is there any other item on consent that anybody would like to pull from the board? Anybody from the audience like to pull any other consent items? Seeing none, if we could get a motion on all of the items except for items 5B1 and 4.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Very good. Okay, let's go to item 5B1. And Miguel, come on up. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Thank you. And I want to applaud Mr. George Martinez. And I think it's time for recognize our own Mexican-American community in this county that very sometimes neglected for different issues, even to be a member of the Board of Supervisors or City Council member, but that's politics. Mr. Chairman, in regard to this recommendation, I think one of the biggest issues is that we're missing one of the towns in regard to page 2 of the Empire area is supposed to receive some kind of service of information. And the point I want to bring you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board, is the Executive Order 13985 in regard to the advance in racial equity under the federal guidelines and monies and funding. One thing is to say we have bilingual bicultural employees, and one thing is to have policies and implementation in regard to racial and ethnicity equity. We don't have that. And I think it's important because that defines really how the funds and programs are going to be implemented. We have many agencies, the 3 top employees, the administrators are whites. We have commission members, the majorities are white. So we need to understand that the racial equity in this county is growing, especially in the Mexican-American community. We're over 60% right now in this county, and we have board members like Mr. Candid, they have over 55% population. So we need to understand that the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to be the majority, whether you like it or not. Because our families, it's not like the Anglo-Saxon, only 1 or 2 families and maybe none. We have tradition to produce under the Catholics insurrection that we more kids we have, we more close to God. I don't think so, but that's the ideology. Mr. Chairman, I believe that we are going too fast, and in the next maybe 15, 20 years, we're going to have 2 members of Mexican-American descent in this board. And I hope the same day that coming, and before I leave from the world. But I'm hoping and I vision that. So remember that 13895, it has to be implemented, Mr. Chairman, a member of the Board of Supervisors. And I hope so the county council take note of that, and sometimes say yes and sometimes don't say nothing. So to me, it has to react or has to say something to you guys, especially to the executive CEO, director. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Miguel. Okay. So on item 5.4, I'm going to have, if we could, Tina, Tina, were you going to come up and do, sorry.
Yeah, she's
on B5.4, yeah, we were going to have, if you could come up and just talk a little bit about item B5.
B1.
I'm sorry, yeah. No, 4, it would be, yeah.
I
5B4.
Mr. Chairman, on 5B1, I also have Valley Home and Knights Ferry is not on that list. It's page 2 of 5 of the staff report. I'm just wondering if they are included along with the Oakdale area. or an Empire is missing also.
Okay, Ruben will come up and discuss that. Thanks, Ruben.
Yeah, if they're just, if it was a mistake that didn't make the list, or...
I think how we wrote the agenda item, and usually I think when we do write the agenda item, we write for the broader general population, and we name those cities. In secondhand, we probably should have just said the general areas of Stanislaus County. But often when we do write these reports, we're focused on areas where we do have the higher numbers of individuals that will be served. But it's not to exclude communities, especially some of the smaller communities where we would have less utilization. But overall, yes, we are going to be open and we will be serving the broader county. And we'll make sure to, as we move forward with the program implementation and as we come back to the board, we'll report on how those actions were taken as well. So
that was my only question. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ruben. Okay, now we'll move on to 5B4. And Tina, if you could just give us a quick little... Maybe we'll do them both. Yeah, let's do them both. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, good morning. Just a quick overview on this one. We're asking the board today to designate Stanislaus Equity Partners as the grant-making entity for a grant amount of about $700,000. In late January, the county was contacted by the state, making us aware of this funding opportunity, that there was $700,000 in COVID-19 microenterprise grant funds that had been allocated to Stanislaus County. We didn't have the time to put in place internally to get those grants out. These are small grants. They're for businesses with 5 or less employees, and the maximum grant is $2,500. With these funds, we'll be able to support approximately 256 businesses. I did want to clarify that the maximum administration is 20% of the first $300,000 of the grant. So the maximum administration that would be able to be spent is $60,000, leaving approximately $640,000 available to share out with the micro businesses. The reason that we were requesting that Stanislaus Partners, Equity Partners, be identified to serve as our grant-making entity is, as you'll recall, back in October, the board supported this as a community development corporation, and one of their 2 focus areas were supporting micro businesses.
Very good. Thanks, Tina. Any questions for Tina here? Okay, then Miguel, thanks, Tina. Well, come on up, Miguel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The observation that I see is the small towns like Empire and Keys and small cities like Houston. I talked yesterday to the economic development person, and the guy don't have the staff or enough time to work with this kind of funding of sources that be given to the cities to do economic development. So I think this is small money they're going to be shared, and I think it's too high. I think the administration is, 20%? The majority is at 10 to 15%. 20 is very high, but this is a nice point. And I think we need to work with the cities like Houston. We have like 3 or 4 families that have own business, and the city and the county are not reaching really these many entrepreneurs, people that have a small business. And I think we need to engage more. And I hope that these groups, they're going to be reaching and come out with more report. I think it's supposed to be at least a 3-month report to see how effective was that money being implemented, because it's I think it's federal money that we're supposed to have more eyes in that. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Miguel. And your concerns, to some extent, I share some, and that's why I wanted to pull this item too. But I think this is exactly why we have funded STEP in other ways to get them up and running, and this is the exact area that we want them to work on through the Community Development Corporation. The percentage seems high, but we're dealing with a lot of very small grants, and like I said, up to 256 businesses. So there's a lot of time involved in this, so it makes it, a higher overhead for the STEP to be able to do this. So I'm okay with that, since the volume of applications that they're going to have to work with in just such small amounts. So I'm all right with that. And this is exactly where we wanted. We felt like there was areas of funds back when the PPP money was coming and we did our original grants that we gave. There were so many of these small businesses that just got left out of this thing. And just because they weren't sophisticated enough, didn't have, like we always say, a CPA to help them or a bank to help them. Yeah, and so this is exactly, when I saw this funding coming through, this is exactly where we wanted to get to, these businesses of less than $50,000 in gross and less than 5 employees or less. So I'm encouraged with this very much. Share some of the concerns you do, Miguel, but and we do want them to come back and provide us with a report and talk to us about what kind of results they're getting with getting this out. Like we said, up to 256 businesses, small businesses are going to get this funding, and we look forward to them coming back to us and reporting. So I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, I would hope maybe in the next quarter, 3 months from now, let's have them come back and let's see where we are. That sounds great. Okay. Any other questions, concerns from the board? Okay. Thank you, Tina, and thanks, Miguel. Okay, so then we'll look for a motion on both items, 5B1 and 5B4.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to our discussion items. Item 7.1, approval to accept the Behavioral Health Board Annual Report for the fiscal year 2020-21. Okay, Ruben, you're back, and Jack is coming up to join us too.
Yes. I'm joined by our co-chair, Mr. Waldorf. I will provide an opening to the report, and then Mr. Waldorf will have some comments. All right, my name is Ruben Imperial, and I'm the director for Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. I'm here today with co-chair of our Behavioral Health Board, Mr. Waldorf. The California Welfare and Institution Code 5604 requires that each county have a Behavioral Health Board and Commission. The Stanislaus County Behavioral Health Board members appointed by the Board of Supervisors for 3-year terms advise the board and behavioral health directors on various aspects of the local mental health and substance use disorder programs. It is the responsibility of the Behavioral Health Board to submit this annual report to the Board of Supervisors on programmatic needs and performance of the county's mental health system. The Stanislaus County Behavioral Health Board has completed its 4th full year of operation as a combined mental health and substance use disorder board since the 2 separate boards were combined in 2017. The board has been carrying out its assigned duties, reaching out to the community, evaluating programs and services, and as well as administrative functions of the behavioral health and recovery services. The board continues to engage in department programs and contracts through site visits, training, and monthly presentations on topics of mental health and substance use disorder. And although COVID-19 has limited in-person and has impeded at times meeting, the board continue to meet virtually, at least on a monthly basis, and we're providing reports and updates on the department's response. This report highlights the activities of the Behavioral Health Board meetings and their work over the last year. In addition to the report, I would like to share some work that we've done with our Behavioral Health Board over the last several months as the department has implemented its strategic plan. First, we worked with the executive committee to restructure our committee structure to align with our strategic plan. So our committees now are organized in a way where, based on our strategic plan, there'll be committee oversight in each major aspect of the strategic plan. We needed to restructure those committees to adequately do that work. We've been really busy trying to recruit new board members, and I'm pleased to announce that I think within the next few weeks we will have a full board, including not only our district representatives but ad hoc committee members as well. We are pleased with the increased interest in the work of mental health in our community, and we look forward to working with these partners. I've been meeting with the new members and trying to gauge their interest in ensuring that if there's a specific aspect of the mental health system that they would like to look at or to learn about, that we're connecting them to that work. And it's been encouraging to meet with our new board members and to hear their interest in the various aspects or the specific aspects of the mental health system. In addition to the new board members and restructuring, one thing you can anticipate in terms of a change is even how the report comes forth to the Board of Supervisors. We've been working in our committees in the area where, as part of the code, it's to advise the director and the Board of Supervisors on various aspects of the mental health system. So in terms of our committee structure and the work that we're doing and onboarding new behavioral health board members, we are continuing to move in a direction where the report in our meetings and the committees that we have align with that intent, even much more than what it's doing today. In addition to the Behavioral Health Board, we are also, over the last several months, been working with various diverse community partners and collaboratives throughout the county, both regionally and culturally, ethnically, and we look forward to integrating our broader community stakeholder planning, our broader community engagement to align and to integrate with the work of the Behavioral Health Board as well. No doubt our department, mental health, our behavioral health department and our community, we are experiencing challenges when it comes to mental health. We will continue to face challenges. There is substantive change occurring currently within the mental health system, legislatively, fiscally, and those challenges are in the course of our daily lives talked about. I can't go to a meeting nowadays where mental health, if it's not even focused on mental health, we end up talking about it in some way. And it's because of the moment we're in and the challenges we're facing as a community, I believe. And so what I would like to say is I'm encouraged and I am hopeful, given the renewed interest in mental health, the new board members that we have, the various stakeholders that have been coming to the table and having discussions about mental health, that our community, we will do fine. We will work together and we will develop recommendations and strategies, and as a behavioral health board, continue to focus on that mission of advising our director, myself, and our board on what's needed in our community in terms of mental health. So with that, I'm going to ask our chair, our co-chair, to speak and about the report and his personal comments. So.
Well, I think that the report speaks for itself, so I'd just like to be mercifully brief and talk a little bit about where we're going. Ruben alluded to the fact that we're going to have a full board, and we have had, I think, recently some of the best candidates that we've interviewed in a long time and that you've appointed, and I'm really looking forward to working with all the new members on the board, acting as a mentor for some of the new members as well. I think that we're on the threshold of some really exciting developments on the board, and I think that it's, in 20 years of serving on the board, I think this is going to be the best board that we've had. I'm excited about it and really looking forward to the future, to what we can accomplish.
Thanks, Jack. Okay. Any questions for Ruben or Jack? Anybody? Supervisor Chiesa.
I just have a comment. And Jack, you've been a mainstay. Obviously, you said 20 years. You've been around longer than any of us, probably just about combined. And I was the representative on the mental health board for a couple of years. Supervisor Withrow, Chair Withrow, had asked me if he could take it over. That was about 10 years ago, I think, right now. And so we rochambeaued because I didn't want to give it up, and he wanted it, and he was quicker with his rock on my scissors. But it is truly an inspirational board, having both experts, mental health experts, along with consumers or family members of consumers, which gives completely different perspectives on how we should spend money, because we get caught up when we spend money, maybe not the five of us, but we talk about groupthink. We think the same way. and we think we're going to affect change, and it's great to have folks like yourself with some sort of lived experience, either through family members. And so I appreciate, again, hat tip, and I love the recommendation, the board sending recommendations to our board during the interview process. I think that's been very helpful, too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vito. Anybody else? Any other comments? I think, Miguel, you wanted to speak on this really quick? And
I want to come back, Mr. Chairman, to the issue of the Executive Order 13895. And I think the report for almost 19 pages only speaking regard to the linguistic and cultural. But I think one thing is the linguistic and cultural, and the other one is the Executive Order that's on regard to the racial and ethnicity equity in this county. We don't have that, sir. We need to be more close and to see what that mandate is, what the executive order is. And you refusing somewhere somehow from January 21 to 2021, that order executive was implemented and mandate to all the federal funds that you guys receive or will receive, but still not that executive order be implemented. And the question is why? You only give me pieces, but not the policy, not the implementation. And I'm talking about funds that's supposed to go for the underserved community and not being channeled directly. I want to thank you, Mr. Ruben, in regard to the promotoras. It's one of the best groups that we have in the community for years. I was a member of that group that we worked initiated that in Sacramento and then got now to the whole state of California. And that's an excellent group. But I think it has to be more deeply than that. I think in regard to the professionals, psychologists, the people, the technicians, we don't have that many. In court, the answer all the time is, well, we don't have too much qualification, Mexican, American, or bilingual people. And to me, that's not correctly true, because we have a Department of Social Work in Stanislaus University, and we're supposed to develop better connection or reaching this group and to promote the mental health professional to be in this county. That way we can have a better racial equity representation. And I think we can work with Mr. Ruben Imperial, and we're trying to do that. One of the persons that work with him very close is Mr. Jan Mataka. But I think the policy is the main issue, and the implementation. And I don't know why is that almost a year and a half, almost, and we still not implemented that. Thank you, sir.
thanks, Miguel. Okay. Any other comments from the public regarding this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. So, Vito's right. This is a very, it's a very rewarding board. It's probably, I've always said it's my favorite board to work on, and I know it was Vito's, and I'm glad I stole it from him. And so, and it is an exciting time. Unfortunately, there's a lot of work to be done. And so when I say exciting, it's because there's a lot of opportunity here for us really to help the community, especially after what we've been through the last couple of years. There is so much opportunity, so much work to be done. But I couldn't be more proud to be a part of this board. I look forward to us actually getting to sit in a room together here again. First time I've actually been able to shake hands with Jack in a long time. And so I couldn't be more proud of the members on this board and the new members that have joined. And I think there's great things that are going to come because there's a need for great things. And so the pressure's on to some extent. But we have a lot of good things happening in behavioral health recovery services, and we're so proud of all the work that Ruben has done. And so, great report, Jack. Look forward to seeing you again, and a lot of good things to come out of our board here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. If not, if we'll accept this report, I'll look for a motion to accept the report.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you guys very much. Good job. Did we?
Yeah,
we did.
After
Yeah.
Miguel, he asked for other public comments.
We're good. Okay, we're going to move on to item 7.2, acceptance of a report on COVID-19 emergency response in Stanislaus County and approval to terminate the county's declaration of local health emergency related to COVID-19. Okay, I think Mary Ann is going to kick this off with Lori and Dr. Papa. Okay, Mary Ann, how are you?
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Mary Ann Lilly, the Managing Director of the Health Services Agency, and with me this morning, I have two colleagues here to present as well. Dr. I'm practicing it. We refer to our Assistant Public Health Officer as Dr. Papa. Her name is Dr. Thea Papazozamenos. And then you're familiar with Lori Williams, our Public Health Director. So they're going to be helping with the presentation today. So we're pleased to be here this morning, and I think what you're going to find is kind of a theme of transition with this report today. I'm going to start and talk a little bit about the local health emergency declaration. Dr. Papa is going to give us the surveillance report, and then Lori's going to give you an update kind of on sort of this transition phase that we're in. But today we're here to really give you an update on how things have improved, and we're so pleased to be able to say that things have really improved, and that today we're really recommending that you terminate the declaration of local health emergency. We're going to explain why. Okay. We are, the pandemic is not over, but we're really moving to the next phase. And I'm hesitant to use the word normal because, with the colleagues that I work with would say that the work that we're doing, it's not the same as it was pre-pandemic, but it's not emergency response. It's pandemic response really moving to this next phase. So. This is almost what you saw when we were here a month ago. The local, our public health officer, Dr. V, declared the local health emergency on March 11th, and that was ratified by your board on March 17th of 2020. The declaration, it helps to support obtaining federal and state resources and reimbursement for all the response activities. And declaring an emergency gets the public's attention too, in terms of understanding and learning and what to do in terms of the threat to the public's health. As we've said, a local health declaration, it's not related to the authority for a public health officer to issue public health orders. It doesn't have any bearing on the state, the state actions, the state's policies, and health orders or CalOSHA's. It's okay. Okay. Just a little bit more information. So a month ago, on February 8th, when your board terminated the local emergency, and we gave information about the reason that we weren't at a point of wanting to recommend ending the local health emergency declaration, you had asked that we come back at least monthly so you can reassess that. And so we're really glad that we're here today to tell you things have really changed quite a bit in a month's time. And you're going to hear a lot more detail from my colleagues. In the surveillance report, it's a much improved situation. I pulled out on February 8th, we had 201 patients hospitalized with or for COVID, 40 of which were in the ICU. So 201. I don't know today's, but yesterday's, that 201 was 58, and the 40 ICU was 13. And those are levels, that was like summer of 2021. So we went up very high with Omicron, and we really came down nicely, pretty fast as well. So, we're in a different situation now. We've got, vaccinations have been available for those choosing vaccine. We encourage it. For those 5 age 5 and over. They've been available for many months. Between vaccination, we have about 70% with at least one dose. There's some level of immunity from infection. So the situation isn't what it used to be. Treatments are right now they're really in greater supply than there's demand for the treatments. And testing too. Even a month ago, we were starting to see those at-home tests starting to come back. Now, you can go into any pharmacy and you do see some of those at-home tests. The availability, the testing availability is improved, and we think that's going to continue to get better as we move forward. A month ago, we were hearing there was a little bit of supply concern with the provider antigen tests. We're now hearing from CDPH that no, that has worked its way out, that supply is much better now too. We have done an awful lot. The community is aware of the layers of protection to assess risk. Depending on what you're doing, sometimes I wear a mask when I go in the grocery store. I'm there for a short period of time. I'm not with a lot of people. Sometimes I'm wearing it, sometimes I'm not. We just all need to assess and make our personal choices about how to protect ourselves and those most vulnerable. The external resources and supplies, because we talked about that a month ago. We still have a number of those kind of requests coming in to support the healthcare community. It could be supplies. It could be PPE. Before it was ventilators. But the demand coming from all the counties for that is less. So some of that reasoning to have that declaration in place, we just think the circumstances have changed now. Luckily, very fortunately, we're in a better situation. Hopefully, we don't know what's to come, but hopefully we're not going to. Hopefully, not going to have to reverse course. We certainly will be planning to be prepared, and you're going to hear more about that. But really trying to move forward. In that same, I think that you're going to find with the information that we provide, I think you're going to find support for the recommendation that we're making to terminate. Before we'd said that we were coming every board meeting and then maybe monthly. Based on kind of where we are, maybe quarterly, unless something significant occurs, that'll probably be about the frequency that we would come unless you ask differently. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop and turn it now to Dr. Papa to give you the surveillance update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So as Mary Ann alluded to, we're seeing a much improved surveillance report. So these are looking at our COVID daily confirmed and probable cases. And you can see our past surges and our most recent surges, and see also that our number of cases have come down significantly as of late, which is very encouraging. So for the next slide. So this is looking at our daily case rate with a 7-day average and a 7-day lag. And as of yesterday, that had come down to 11.5. That's the daily case rate. And again, that's also come down nicely. So for the next slide. So this is our testing positivity, again with a 7-day average and a 7-day lag. And the lines on there are this is just sort of a reference. The lines are the purple, the red, and the orange from previous tiers related to the positivity rate. So our positivity rate has come down. As of yesterday, it was 5.1% positivity rate, which would put us close to the red from before, just as a reference. And this is looking at our wastewater surveillance, which is obtained the data is evaluated with partners at the University of Merced, and they prepare these graphs for us. So this is looking at different genes on the SARS-CoV virus, and as you can see, recently the levels of the genes detected have come down nicely as well. And as Mary Ann alluded to, this is looking at our total hospitalizations and ICU for all of our 5 area hospitals. And again, these have also come down compared to where we were at the most recent surge. We still have, obviously patients in our hospitals who are hospitalized with COVID and in the ICU with COVID as well, but they have come down. So I think yesterday, as Mary Ann said, we had 58 people in our 5 area hospitals with a diagnosis of confirmed COVID, and 13 of those people were in the ICU. This is looking at, CDC recently put out these new COVID-19 community level metrics, and they break it down into low, medium, and high. And this is sort of a pathway for local governments, state governments, and so forth in terms of how to interpret their data and what sort of, and also for individuals as well to look at, individuals and households, and adjust their behaviors accordingly. So they look at individual and household level prevention behaviors as well as community level prevention strategies depending upon which level a county is at. As of yesterday, when I looked at it, Stanislaus County was in the medium or yellow category. And what's interesting about this is this has sort of been the way they're looking at the data now is different sort of to how they were before in terms of arriving at the low, medium, and the high. Before, they were really looking at transmission, evidence of transmission with case rates as well as testing positivity rate to arrive at their different levels. These indicators that they're looking at, they are still taking into account the case rate of cases per 100,000 in the past 7 days, but they're also incorporating other indicators as well, including looking more at the effect it has on the ability of the system to handle those cases. So they're looking at, so for example, new COVID-19 admissions per 100,000 population in the county, as well as the percent of staffed inpatient beds occupied by COVID-19 patients when they come up with these the different levels. So that's sort of the way they're approaching it. So based upon that, a category is this, or a level is assigned to a county, and then they have a prevention behaviors both at the individual and household and the community level. Next slide. So this is looking at our therapeutics. So this is treatment availability in Stanislaus. So these are the different treatments that are available for, at least for the Omicron variant of COVID-19. So the bottom two are our monoclonal antibodies, and the top two are our oral antivirals, and then remdesivir is an IV antiviral. So the way we looked at it is sort of show what our allocations have been, as well as what has been ordered by community organizations and providers who distribute these products. So what we've seen, also I'll just sort of break it down. We're looking at our previous allocations and then our current allocations, the most recent allocation we had of these products. So for for the monoclonal antibodies, the ones that are effective for Omicron, the sotrovimab and the bebtelovimab, for the past 30 days, we were allocated for sotrovimab 588 courses, and our providers, the people who distribute it, the organizations, they ordered 214. And then for the bebtelovimab, we were allocated 460 for the last 30 days, and the providers, the organizations, ordered 70 doses. From what I've heard, the last two orders that we've had hardly any organizations order any product. And presumably that's because they're, either their supply, they already have enough supply from previous orders, or there's just not enough, as well as people are not utilizing these products as much. So the most...
Dr. Bar, is there a shelf life on that, on those?
They do have expiration dates. I don't think it's a matter of, so the products do have expiration dates.
But it's 6 months, a year?
I don't know, but
Okay.
I assume it's, they do have, I don't know what the, presumably they have a way to, if they approach the expiration date, there's a way to redistribute the product to other, counties, if they feel like they won't be able to use it.
Okay.
So for the most current allocation, for one of the products it was 156 and we ordered 0, and the other product it was 175 and again 0 was ordered. So for the oral, going now to the oral antivirals, the Paxlovid and Molnupiravir. So Paxlovid we have, as far as I can see from our calculations from December 23rd, starting through February 23rd, we were allocated 700 of the product, and all of that has been ordered. And our most recent allocation was is going to be due probably today, that we have to determine the allocation, and we were allocated 192 of the product, and we are waiting to see what the order will be for that. And then for the Molnupiravir, we have been allocated 2,612 since between December and the end of February, of which 2180 was ordered. So providers have not been ordering as much of that. And our most recent allocation is 200, and we'll see what providers end up ordering from that. So pretty much, we are allocated product, and at this point, a combination that the organizations aren't ordering as much, presumably because they have some on hand, and there isn't as much demand from their clients.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marianne and Dr. Papa. All right, so I get to bring it on home for us in terms of what we're doing and how we'll address this going forward. I was sitting here thinking about what this 2 years has kind of been for us. And I like to hike, and I don't know if other people like to hike, but when you hike, there can be some really steep hills that you go up, and whenever you get to the top of that hill, it could level off, but you're eventually going to come down. Well, we've done that about 4 or 5 times. We've gone up, and the things have surged up, and we've met the challenge, and we've done everything that we can to keep the community safe and get information out and follow the regulations and the mandates. Well, we're here now, and we can see the end of the trail. And we are quite excited about that. But seeing the end of the trail doesn't mean you're out of the woods yet. So we're kind of still in the woods, but things are absolutely looking up. And I think Marianne and Dr. Papa have both shared with us the declining case rates. The hospitalizations are going down. We have expanded access to testing. We have treatment. So we have the things that we need to kind of keep us, on this trail and moving out of the woods. But I want to be real clear that we're still in the woods. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. So moving forward, to make sure that we're clear about where we are, we have to keep our eye on the case rates. We have to look at, make sure we're tracking outbreaks, that we're looking at the hospitals, that we're doing all the things that we've been doing, but it can come down a bit. It's not at the highest level, and it's not so intense, but we have to stay focused, and I have to advance the slides, excuse me. All right, so things are looking up. I shared that piece. And so this is the piece I'm talking about now in terms of us staying focused, looking at case numbers, the outbreaks, the hospitalizations, the death rates, really, keeping our eye on these water samples. These are the indicators that will tell us, you got a hill approaching, so we have to really make sure that we're watching those things. I just wanted to just take a few minutes to just kind of share with people the difference between epidemic, pandemic, and endemic. There's been a lot of, when people talk about endemic, they're quick to focus on the end in the endemic and hoping that it means end, that it's over. But the truth of the matter, when something becomes endemic, is actually here to stay. It's here, but it's at a much more manageable level. So think flu, think HIV, think malaria. So those diseases are at endemic. They're endemic, here in the states and across the nation. So it speaks to a shift, and certainly things change. But you're really looking at where it will reoccur. When you think about flu, we know it reoccurs a certain period of time. We don't really know yet kind of what the reoccurrence might look like, but we know that it will be with us. But we also know, and we're very, very pleased that we have the tools to deal with it. Similar to flu, we have vaccines available. It's accessible, that type of thing. And I think in the last year, we were also quite excited that we finally have a vaccine for malaria, which has killed thousands and thousands of people. So we're in a new phase. But we have a proven approach in terms of how to kind of keep moving forward. And that approach really speaks to kind of the hallmark of public health, which is to really ensure that we're focusing on prevention. And for us, prevention related to COVID is really ensuring that there's access to testing and that there's access to vaccines and that people really know how to protect themselves. We will continue to promote health and wellness all comprehensively. This is one virus. There's many viruses. There's many other illnesses that people need to deal with. We like to kind of get into begin to have those conversations again. Kind of how do you thrive? How do you really have a healthy lifestyle? And so going forward, we will really be looking up and lifting up messages about how to do that. We want to maintain our communication with our partners. We have established some really, really effective relationships with healthcare, with the healthcare system, with the hospital, with just about every entity. So we'll definitely be kind of pulling back in terms of the frequency. So instead of talking to folks every week, we'll kind of spread that out a bit. But we will absolutely be keeping those connections in place so that we can all move forward in trying to create a healthy community for all. And then we're also very, very pleased with the fact that we do have treatment. And they're constantly working on the treatment to make sure that it's more and more effective. Right now, we have more than people are, accessing. And so that's a messaging thing that we want to make sure that we're messaging out, and we'll continue to do that as well. Let's see. Okay. So with that information, with Marianne, what Marianne shared with you, with some of the data that Dr. Papa has shared, and then just kind of sharing with you kind of where we are, what we will continue to do, we're asking that you accept the following recommendations. Accept a report on COVID-19 emergency response in Stanislaus County. Consider termination of the local health emergency declared by the public health officer on 3/11/2020 as ratified by the board on 3/17/2020. Adopt a resolution terminating the declaration of local health emergency. Those are our recommendations.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, Lori, thank you very much. Dr. Papa, thank you. And Marianne, thank you. Okay, any questions for staff before? Okay, seeing none, we will go out to public comment on this item, and I do have some cards on this, and we'll go through those first, and then anybody else that didn't fill one of these out can still speak. First one we'll go with is Samuel Bosshart. Samuel, come on back.
Hello again. So I had a couple of questions about the presentation. So the case rate slide, are the numbers on the y-axis of this graph representing per 100,000 people, or the total people in the county?
It's usually, yeah, it'd be per 100,000.
Okay, so like at the very peak, I think it was 1,800. So that would be representing 1.8% of the population of the county. About, is that, well, if you divide 1,800 by 100,000.
So you're looking at the daily case rate, and you're saying the peak from this surge?
Yeah, I don't.
This one right here?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was like 180 was the daily case rate per 100,000. So
Oh, it was 180. Okay.
yeah, so that would be 180, I guess, times, if that's per 100,000, then if you multiply times 5.5 for our county
Okay.
population.
So if I divide it by 100,000, 180 divided by 100,000, then that's 0.18% of the county. Anyway, it wasn't the number I was kind of expecting it to be. I mean, I knew many people who had tested positive, but just seemed a little low. But okay, just was curious about that. Also, is the case rate if somebody takes a test multiple times, like they tested positive, and then several days later they tested again, is that considered the same case, or is that?
We would usually consider that to be previously reported.
Okay.
So if someone tests positive, usually they advise, usually they advise them not to retest for 90 days with a PCR test.
Okay.
So, unless they had new symptoms, they've resolved and they develop new symptoms. So typically we would count those cases as previously reported.
Okay, because I know PCR testing in some cases can be required by different venues or whatnot, or for traveling and all that. So, okay, just was wondering about the duplication of that. So, one other thing I just wanted to point out, and this is something that other community members have mentioned. So I noticed that ivermectin was missing from the list of early treatments, and it may not be within the county's purview, but from what I've seen from meta-analysis, very good outcomes for it, and the risk is fairly low as far as pharmaceuticals go. IVMmeta.com shows meta-analysis for it, and like 83% prophylaxis outcomes, for instance, which is higher than some of the things that were on that slide. So, and just wanted to point that out.
The treatments that were available on that slide came from those are all treatments that are recommended by the NIH and the National Institutes of Health. And the National Institutes of Health actually has a ranking of preference in terms of treatment. They do not include ivermectin on that. I have glanced or looked at a little bit at some of those. I know that there are meta-analysis out there regarding ivermectin, and I also know that there are ongoing studies for ivermectin. From the meta-analysis, meta-analysis has lots of different studies that are combined.
Including randomized clinical trials. Yeah.
So I think what my understanding was that, direct comment?
To the board.
Oh, okay. So the comment should be directed to the board? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. You can finish your thought if you want, Dr. Bob, and then we'll...
Sorry, it was about the presentation.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Good questions. It's fine, yeah.
Oh. Well, my understanding is with the meta-analyses, they have different studies that are brought together. And at least for some of the studies that did show the positive or some sort of benefit with ivermectin, they had, I guess there were a lot of concerns regarding the methodology of those studies and how they produced those data. So they had some, and those were the studies that contributed heavily toward the outcome reflected in the meta-analysis. So that's why my understanding is that they were somewhat suspect of those results.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for your time, and I'd once again, encourage you to, if you haven't gone to that website before, ivmmeta.com, check it out. They have, they have refuted some of those claims too about that. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Samuel. Thanks, Steve. Okay, next up I have Peter Dean. And yeah, we are supposed to direct the comments to the chair, I'm sorry. But there were good responses there, so I wanted to hear it. So anyway, Peter, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing fine.
Good to see you.
My name's Peter Dean. I'm just up here to comment that it's past time to end the emergency COVID-19 declaration. And let's go back to normal and do things with due process, and thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, next we have Corinne Whitlow. Corinne. Corinne, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good.
Okay, Corinne Whitlow. Actually had challenges preparing for this meeting today, not because I have so much to say in a short period of time, but because I feel like you guys already know we're at the point to terminate the local emergency. You've seen the science, you've seen it changed, you know science is still ever changing. You've heard our stories, our pleas for help. You've seen locally what these orders and what COVID has done to our community. I know personally you guys have felt it and seen it in your lives. So I really wanted to take it back a second and really acknowledge the devastation that COVID has had on our community. Looking back at the other board meetings, I'm very quick to jump into my points, and I feel like I have a lot to say, but I feel like I've kind of missed that point, acknowledging how COVID has impacted our community. It's been very devastating. Personally, I've dealt with loved ones who've died from COVID. It's changed my child's education opportunities. It's affected the hospital I work in. The mandates in regards to COVID have really destroyed the culture within our hospitals, which is really sad. And one of the first reasons I started coming to board meetings is because I saw that culture changing within our hospital systems. It's changed now. We've watched it ravish through homes and really take a toll on our community. We now know what COVID is going to do. We know how we can protect ourselves, and I think it's time that we end this local health emergency in Stanislaus County. It's past time. It's necessary. The people who make a lot of these rules don't even follow them. Ending the local state of emergency in Stanislaus, I think it shows transparency and accountability for you guys. I think it's very important for your community to know this. It helps restore our faith and our trust in you. To be quite honest, we've lost our trust and faith in a lot of public health and in our government. I know personally I have, and I know for a lot of other people in our community, if they tell us in the future, oh, this is happening, do this, we're going to consider doing the opposite at this point. So it's really good to know locally we can trust you guys. So I just really want to thank you for that. This 2 years of this COVID response feels like we're on a hamster wheel. It's time to get off that hamster wheel. I think back to the stick figure that Dr. V presented at one of the meeting last month, and she said their job as public health was to put up the fences to keep us away from the cliff. But then all of our justification is talking about the little ambulance on the bottom. So I just think there's a huge disconnect from what public health could be doing and what our local government could be doing, and then what as individuals we should be doing. So I think ending this local order of emergency helps get us back on track. To be honest, we are not in an emergency, obviously. You guys know this. We need to wrap this up and move on. There are so many bad legislative bills coming down that are an attack on our children and our communities. Joni touched base on SB 876, but we also have SB 866, 920, 1100, AB 2098. There are so many bad bills coming to attack our local communities, our children. We need to put this emergency behind us, work together and strategize for what's next, how we can protect our people locally, and then how we get out of this mess that was created by, in my opinion, the government. So I just want to say thank you guys. I just appreciate you guys for being attentive, and I'm just so proud to live here and live in a place where I feel like our representation is listening to us and doing something. So many representatives are not doing anything, even though they know what's going on. So just thank you so much, and I look forward to the next adventure.
Thanks, Corinne. Okay, next up I have Timothy Benefield. Timothy, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you again for letting us speak. And I would like to echo Ms. Corinne that the first time I came to this, one of these meetings, I didn't know what to expect. Nice big fancy dais here and all of that, but you guys have been extremely open and welcome, and I appreciate that. And not every place that I go to speak in front of representatives are they that way. I feel less welcome at my own city council than I do here. Maybe they know me better. Maybe that's a problem. I don't know. But I do thank you for listening, and I've watched you listen to many different people, even people that were in a lot of passion. I appreciate that. I would like to just point out, and I wanted to read to you real quickly. I'm sure you've read this before because of your position, but the California Constitution, its preamble says, "We, the people of the state of California, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom." These are the very first words in our California Constitution, in order to secure and perpetuate its blessing. And what is that "it's" referring to? It's referring to this freedom which God has blessed us with, do establish this Constitution. And to me, that's just an amazing start to our California Constitution. And yet, I was helping a student the other day. We have a student that homeschools at our house with our students, with my children, and she was going through California history. And I was helping her study for something, and I was stunned to find out that the California Constitution is the 8th longest, not in America, in the world. It's the 8th longest Constitution in the whole world. It's just super long, super onerous for a lot of reasons. And what we've become is, instead of the Wild West and the land of opportunity and the Golden State, we're quickly turning into an authoritarian state where people are now fleeing. And what does that have to do with this? Is that any opportunity that we have to go towards freedom, we should take. Our country, our state is spring-loaded for freedom, and anything we can do to remove restrictions and declarations of this and declarations of that. The goal of government is not to control our lives, but just to make sure that we are free to live our lives. And that's pretty clear if you study our history, study our Constitution, and even the history of our state. And I think back to a couple meetings ago, I think it was called the cliff analogy or something like that. And when the government begins to feel like they have to look out for us, they begin to treat us like children, and instead of allowing us to gather information and make decisions for ourselves, and instead of it becoming a free state, it becomes a very regulatory state. One of the bills that has been mentioned that's getting up in front of our state legislature right now is actually designed to cause law enforcement officials to have to enforce health orders, which right now certain sheriff's departments and police departments have said, that's not our business, we're staying out of that. And so while we're trying to pull back here, and I thank you for that, our state is not anywhere near heading that direction. And anything we can do to clear the board and have freedom, we need, so that we can direct all of our energy towards these real encroachments upon our liberty that are getting ready to get crammed down our throats from Sacramento. And so I just want to echo that I'm thankful for you listening. I'm thankful that the recommendation is being made to get rid of this, and I always struggle keeping them separate. The state of emergency, the health emergency, they're worded similarly, but I find it interesting that there's been this big drop in numbers with no state of emergency. And I suspect strongly that those numbers would have been almost identical with no health declaration of emergency. I think it would have been viruses are going to do what they do. And so I just want to encourage and request that we do follow these recommendations, get rid of this health emergency, and continue on in the direction of freedom. First of all, again, that's the first thing in our state constitution. We're thanking God for our freedom and saying we're establishing a constitution to protect that freedom. let's do that. Let's protect freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Okay, that's all the speaker cards I have. Is there anybody else that would like to speak before? Jody, come on back. Hi there.
Okay. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I just feel like I need to. So this public health emergency should have ended a long time ago. It's done a lot of harm. And anyone, there's nurses in this room. I'm a nurse. You guys know that about me by now. We know risks and benefits. And as nurses, we are trained to advocate for our patients. So I'm going to read to you guys a little snippet from Kaiser's Patient Bill of Rights. And just tuck this away for the future, because someday you will find yourself in a healthcare institution. We all will. And you need to know that you have a Patient Bill of Rights. If you're admitted and you're in sound mind, ask for it. Have that at your bedside. You have the right to receive a description of the proposed treatment, the significant risks, and the various alternative methods of treatment, including the risks and advantage of each of the consequences of receiving non-treatment before you consent to any action. You also may refuse a recommended treatment, test, or procedure if not required by law. And you may leave the facility against the advice of a physician at your own risk. You have the right to refuse to participate in any treatment which is considered experimental in nature. You will not be involved in such a study without your understanding and permission. There's more to it, to the Patient Bill of Rights and responsibilities, but those two sections I believe are so important, especially where it says, if not required by law. I know I have talked to you guys before about the battle in our state that is happening for our children and for the control of our children right now. There's a battle going on for control, period. Law. And Corinne pointed a few more of those bills out to you guys that are going to strip our rights if they pass. So get rid of this declaration of public health emergency. Please, please protect our rights. I'm terrified, to be honest, and that's all I have to say. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jody. Okay, anybody else that would like to speak? Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Rosie Cole. I've been here one or two times before. I want to thank you guys for finally, putting an end to this local state of emergency. I just wanted to share that I'm still very scared, just like Joni. The data that was shared was just so mind-boggling to me, because now we have this huge push for home tests, and I don't know if you've heard, but I think I mentioned it before, when you call the phone tree of Sutter or Kaiser or maybe even the other hospitals in town, it says, encourages you to not see your doctor for testing for if you are going to travel or if you need to get back to work, or all of a sudden there's this change of why and when you should be tested, and I think it just has a huge influence on the data that is being presented by public health, which to me it just seems so skewed. But that aside, it's well overdue. I'm wearing this shirt and mask our kids. For months we've known that this disease is not harming our children. But, like the girls are saying, all of these new Senate bills that are coming our way, I don't know, it's still a huge fear, even though we're terminating our local state of emergency. So if there's any way you can help us, I don't know what we can do, if we have to organize and go at the state level, or if you have a say to protect our county from these impacting our school children, please do. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosie. Anybody else like to? Steve, come on up. Oh, sorry. We'll catch you next. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. I hadn't planned on speaking today, so I have nothing prepared. But when this whole COVID thing started 2 years ago, there was a lot that we didn't know. And you folks have to sometimes make very tough decisions for what you feel is the benefit of the public good. And at that time, the declaration of emergency was the smart thing to do. 2 years later, we know a lot now, so it is time to move on to the next phase. But one thing that's not going to change is that tough decisions are still going to need to be made in the future. And someone has to do it, and there are going to be people who aren't going to like what you have to decide. But I firmly believe that all of you acted in our interest to try to protect us. And now that we have better science, we can now move past the COVID thing, and when the next crisis comes along, we will rely on your judgment to act in the public interest without overreaching. In our society, people talk about freedom, and freedom is important. And those of us who served in the military went out and fought to preserve that freedom. But without some rules, without some regulations, we have anarchy. We don't have freedom. And there's always going to be a balance on where do you draw the balance, and people are going to have different opinions. So I have full confidence in this board that they're always going to act in our interest without going too far to the authoritarian government that people have been talking about. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for what you've done for us.
Thanks, Steve. Okay. I think come on up. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for listening to us and
Pull that mic down there. There we go.
Thank you for listening to us and letting us speak and just getting our minds out. I think that maybe next time, if there is a next time, we should look at declaring our county a sanctuary county, because this has been 2 years that we've been stuck in this, and that's just, it's unacceptable. Our kids are suffering, the mental health services are suffering. It's just, we don't need to do it. Atwater declared themselves a city, a sanctuary city at the beginning of this, and said no to all the COVID BS. And I just think that the state likes to take their time to keep us where they want us. And next time, I just don't see that this is necessary. I think that we should be able to make our own choices. SB 1464, I believe, is going against, or is going after our sheriffs and enforcing them to mandate everything for the state of emergency, whether it's the local county or the state, whichever is more tighter on their rules. So I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see us lose our freedoms again. I don't want to see our kids suffer even worse than they already have. So if we could look into that, that would be great. Thank you for your time.
And your name, sorry?
I'm sorry, my name is Courtney Peters.
Perfect, thanks, Courtney. Okay, any other comments? Anybody else?
Make it on to those two that we have.
Yeah. Okay, and we do, if there are no other ones, we did receive a couple emails, one from Mrs. Latou and another one from Jessica Miller with regard to this item, so. Okay, seeing there's no further comments, I will bring it back to the board for other comments, concerns. Manny?
All right, thank you, Chair. Well, I appreciate the presentation. As many of you have spoken today, this is a long time coming. Hopefully it could have been more expeditious, but it's finally here. And, 2 years, we obviously had to make decisions for the betterment of our county, for all of us. And I hope you guys still keep coming. There's other things that are on the horizon that we need to continue to discuss and make sure that we're at the forefront of those as well. So I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward, hopefully my colleagues voting on this, and this being one step, one of many steps into normalcy. I know we're not out of the woods, but I hope we're like in Jellystone Park, where the woods are fun. So I hope that's the kind of woods we're in. But thank you again for the presentation, and look forward to voting for this ending of the public health emergency. Thanks again.
Thanks, Manny. Any other comments? Vito?
Yep, I'll just say, first of all, Dr. Papa, thank you for coming in. Lori, Mary Ann, the public health team that sits over there. I think I told them before this, it's been kind of a tough job over the past couple of years, and I appreciate what Steve said right at the end about the unknown 2 years ago, and we have so much more knowledge today based on what we heard on, especially on the treatment side. We have testing capacity, all the things that we didn't have in the beginning. So I can see, this is probably a little past due, I would agree with that, but based on the unknowns and the last variant increase, the Omicron variant increase, I understand why we're here today. I'll be supporting this. I did want to point out again the medical reserve corps that we honored today, people showing up to help out of the goodness of their heart. I wanted to ask the two folks really what their driving force was, because we hear from everyone about how we love our community, and there's another example of people stepping up. Something else that just struck me, and this is completely probably off kilter, but Terry and I were on a panel the other day for Leadership Modesto, and someone asked the question of the panel, what makes you the most qualified person to do this job? And my answer was pretty simple, that I don't think I'm the most qualified person to do this job. I have an experience in agriculture. That's my experience. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a police officer. I'm not, I can think of mental health professional. And so that's why boards are made up of different people from different life experiences that come together with professionals, and listening to folks like you who show up to our meeting to inform us, because we can't know everything all the time. It's truly, a day doesn't go by that I don't say something to the effect of, I didn't know we did that. And today, meeting with the DA, yesterday I was over at the Corners facility. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So we try and bring ourselves up. And Joni, I appreciate you saying something really important today. You may not remember what I said, but remind us of what it is you said. And not, again, that's never to discount anything you said. It's just that we hear so much information that it's hard to retain. And I'm going to go to the Evelyn Woodhead speed reading course and memory course. But I appreciate, truly, I appreciate all of you showing up. This is one issue. I do want to leave with a suggestion. I know that the chairman and Supervisor Buck Condit were kind of a little subcommittee, and that you take a look at some of these bills that are going through again, or have some of our folks look at it. But it'd be really good just for you to try and, because it seems like people are trying to manage from a state level, and I think we've had good success. Some of you might disagree, but with the direction of our public health department, I think we've had some real success on a local level. Things are different here than they are in Mono County, as they're different in San Francisco County. So keeping it at the local level always is advantageous. So there's just some thoughts.
Good. Thanks, Vito. Any other comments? So this is great that we're coming to this point, and it's been a long, hard road for all of us. First, just to thank, our staff. Thank you guys very much for what everybody's been through for the last 2 years as we've been in this state of a health emergency. And then I want to thank all of you that are here, and all of who aren't here today that have been here. It's I was giving a speech last night, and one of the things that came to me is, out of all the terrible that came from COVID that we've all had to deal with, probably the best thing I could see is it kind of awakened a sleeping giant of our country. Because we'd been in this state of kind of apathy. When everything's going good, we're all just taking care of ourselves. We're not worrying about where things are going, what's happening. But this country was founded on people who stood up and questioned authority. I mean, that's why people came here to begin with. They questioned, and still today leave the countries that they come from, because they question what's going on there, and they want to come here to a country where they can question those things and not be put in jail for doing that. And so, if nothing else, to look for the silver lining of COVID, I would say that the ending of apathy in this country, and individuals, as all of you here and all the people across the country that have stood up, and because we have to have that balance. We have to question authority. We can't just accept always what's being told to us. And I'm not disrespectfully, not in a bad way, but we need to, when we're being told something, we need to do our homework. We need to make sure for ourselves that we agree with that. And we're always going to disagree, but it's critical that we have those disagreements so that we can have those discussions then. And we need to be able to then continue to have those discussions. We've got to have a left and a right because we've got to figure out where in the middle we're going to meet to make things work. And so, so very proud of been a part of this the last couple of years. Been very painful, I can say. I'm sure for everybody up here, it has been. But that's why we do this job. We try to do the right thing and make decisions that are good for everybody. And it's critical that we have everybody's input and everybody be a part of this process, or else it just doesn't work. And so I very much appreciate our public health staff. I very much appreciate all of you who have been here, like I said, and all the people who aren't even here today. And this is, hopefully we don't have to go through this again, but if we do, the process works. I think the process does work, is what we've proved, if anything else here. It might move slower than we want, but the process does work when everybody gets involved and weighs in on it. So I thank all of you who are here and part of this, and so I will look now for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you guys very much. Thank you all. Okay, we will move on to correspondence.
This board has received the claims and correspondence as named on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Do we have any Board of Supervisor reports?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Chance.
I just wanted to report out that I had the pleasure of doing a ride-along with the Stanislaus County Sheriff Department recently over the weekend. I want to thank K-9 Deputy Michael Sierra. He was a fantastic ride-along, and he does an incredible job for our Sheriff's Department. I just want to salute all our men and women in our Sheriff's Department. They do a great job.
Perfect. Thanks, Chance. Vito?
So Deputy Sierra has one of the most athletic dogs I've ever seen in my life. Watching him train, it is just an amazing canine. I was going to ask the board if you give me the privilege of bringing in the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control to do a presentation at some point in the future when we have a light agenda. There's just so many things going on with ag burning and diesel replacement engines, just a lot of things, and I think it'd be beneficial to bring them in.
That sounds great. Anybody else? Okay. Legislative Fiscal and Management Report, Chief Executive Officer Jody Hayes.
I was going to say good afternoon. It's good morning still. That's great. So yeah, just a very quick recognition that the deadline has passed to introduce new bills in Sacramento, and we've talked about a couple here today or hearing public comment already on a couple of them. For a total perspective, we have about 2,000 bills introduced in this current legislative session. Our legislative delegation that represents portions of Stanislaus County, or at least a portion of Stanislaus County, have about 79 measures up for consideration in Sacramento. So we'll definitely be keeping you aware of the ones that are progressing and seem to have potential impacts here in Stanislaus County. Obviously, each year, thousands of bills are introduced, and not all of them actually move very far into the legislative process, but that's where our team keeps track of what's getting traction and what we need to pay attention to and where we can advocate on behalf of our community. So we'll be doing that. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Jody. I want to thank Deputy Walsh, Jim Walsh, for being here today. Thank you for helping us through the meeting here. And before we go to adjourn, we're going to go into closed session. And Tom, do you want to?
Yes. We have closed session this morning. We have one item, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, that's subdivision D1. We have one case to consider, Armenta Cortez versus Stanislaus County Superior Court of California, case number CV 21002873. And would that be appropriate for public comment?
Okay, any public comment before we go into closed session? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.